Well, welcome everybody. I am here with founder and CEO Paul T. Glessner, along with some of the board of advisors, part of the team with Aegis. And we are so excited to have you guys here. Glenn Gonzalez, Mark Glessner, thank you so much for being here. It's amazing, Paul, what you've been able to do, the attention that you're garnering from some incredible aviation greats and even some Hall of Famers there. I'll let you speak to that. I don't want to steal your thunder or anything like that. But Paul, why don't you just bring investors up to speed with some of the information they've seen thus far and what you're doing with Aegis, as well as maybe some of the potential partners that are coming on board with conversations that you've had. I know you've been to the MRO conference and some other events. So bring everybody up to speed with that.
Thanks for that, Izzy. Several weeks ago, I was at MRO Americas put on by Aviation Week. And there is a constant gathering of anyone dealing with maintenance, repair, and overhaul for the major airlines. But a lot of these repair facilities also do business jet stuff. So it was handed to me. I had to go. I'd be dumb to be sitting on my couch thinking I'm going to get these relationships there. And I met some of the greatest people and came away with 4 entities that want to send me an LOI, and they work on business jets. And so I'm excited about that. While there, one of our board members, John Golia, who's coming into the National Aviation Hall of Fame here in a few months, he was the founder of what's called Aerospace Maintenance Council. And there they had 27 stations for 90 teams of 5 to go through and work on maintenance-oriented stuff. And to see my guy had headed this up, and the response to have not only sponsored by United, Delta, and American, but to have the presidents of the company there. That was just mind-blowing. So John makes a great presence, and talk about, boots on the ground. He's there for us. Recently, Izzy, I've shared some pictures with you, was at the Living Legends of Aviation, and there, Greg Feith heard that I was asking if he would be an advisory board member, and gave me a big hug and says, "Tell me what I got to do." He is next to John. They walk on water when it comes to accident investigation, And then lastly, just got a text from Jimmy Graham, and he's endorsing the letter that we're going to send to an organization that has 12,500 jets. I'm over the moon about this. When I spoke to the CEO of that organization, they apprised me they only have a 30% discount to their members and on fuel. And so I asked them about maintenance, and they had nothing. So I hope that we're getting our foot in the door here. They're anxious to hear our response, and having this beautiful letter approved by Jimmy, who's a member, will be just great.
That is amazing. With the opportunity that would be on the table for you to provide that, that's absolutely incredible. And speaking of these companies, I know Glenn, without mentioning any specific names or anything, Glenn, you've been a part of some organizations, founded them, chaired them. We're in the C-suite of them. I love your integrity. Thank you so much for serving, number one, this amazing country that we get to do business in, and everything that you did, and you're decorated. What I look at is your integrity, which is paramount for me, where you had to sunset some relationships because you saw some issues and you didn't want to be the face man for things that were happening there. And I love that. My hat's off to you for doing something like that. But at the end of the day, you wanted to really provide value to clients. And obviously you can see Aegis does that. Why don't you bring us up to speed with what you've been seeing in the marketplace with some amazing opportunities that are on the horizon that we're certainly going to be pursuing?
Absolutely. Thank you, Izzy. Definitely a great opportunity for disruption. The need for disruption in private aviation still remains. And yes, unfortunately, I had to step away from some previous ventures for safety concerns. But more importantly, the need for disruption is still there. In particular, what I was driving towards and what we were focused on doing was creating an opportunity to create more value for the users of business aviation. One of the ways to do that is with an integration between the civilian and commercial aircraft and then the general and business aviation space. There's definitely a need. We've observed that a little bit with the efforts between Delta and Wheels Up. And there are more efficient and more effective ways to bring that to bear. And that's one of the things I hope to be able to bring to Aegis.
I love that because, one of the things that I've chatted with Paul about is we've all been there. We've all sat on a big bird and there's 300 people sitting on the tarmac wondering what on earth is going on. We're still waiting. And all of a sudden a black Suburban pulls up, lets out somebody. They jump on the plane and they had priority to be able to hold that bird and upset 300 people. And I look at it as, what if we had a situation where we could just say, hey, we just drive him over to the FBO that's 2 miles away, and we'll coordinate and integrate one of the birds that are in our network, give that person still first class service and not upset 300 other people and miss their connections and be giving away vouchers and potential hotel stays, meals. I think it could be so much more efficient. I absolutely appreciate your perspective on that. And Mark, yourself coming from a very deep accounting background, working with some big accounting great names, and we don't have to go into those details there. They can look at your bio. But obviously, you are impressed with not only the scalability, but the market size of this. Can you just give the investor or audience the perspective of how massive this can become in the future?
Yes, very good, Izzy. I think the key is when you first look at your 5-year projections, they were initially generated based on, I'll just say, limited information. And since the time of the preparation of them, as you as well as Paul have indicated, there's been a lot of interest. So similar to using your analogy of a hockey stick, you can kind of invest at the low end here or at a higher end when there is more value. You recognize too that you as an investor don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. And obviously you're all looking for who, is somebody already in the boat with me? And the key is, to assess really the flexibility and the sizability of the opportunities here. And it would seem that based on your information, that what was originally conceived as being, kind of A to B to C is now much larger than that. And it's a key to be able to capitalize on that maneuverability.
I appreciate that. And of course, putting the qualifier out there that we're not making any guarantees, representations. This is not an offer to buy or selling of any kind. Just want to qualify that. And I'd love to jump back over to Glenn, where, Glenn, I look at the commercial airspace in general, from maybe overflow of maintenance that could go over to an organization like Aegis, to facilitating private jet services to better handle circumstances. Why wouldn't, let's play devil's advocate here, why wouldn't any major airline want to partner with someone like an Aegis? I mean, very similarly, the way your example that you mentioned with Delta and Wheels Up.
Yeah, it really only makes sense. I mean, any business has its preferred customers. And so when you are an airline and you're trying to provide a premium service to your customers, whether it's your corporate outfits or just those multi-million milers on an annual basis, you want to make sure that those organizations are well taken care of. And by creating a bridge between your highest level of service in first class to the private aviation and having access to a private jet with a number of your peers, that really does not exist today. And it definitely doesn't exist in a very efficient manner. And so a company like Aegis can create and facilitate the introduction between the operators and the airlines by creating a badge or a stamp of approval that says this is an approved airline, that the airline can feel is trustworthy. And that relationship is something that I hope to be able to bring, and what we're hoping to continue to work on and solidify with the partners that we're in conversation with.
I love that. So we're able to really cater to the upper echelon of these type of folks over here. And yet, what I've always told folks, and Mark would likely concur with me, if you're flying 300 plus hours a year and you have the financial capability to afford your own private jet. I mean, with a dull pencil and a broken calculator, I can almost always prove to someone that it makes sense to own your own private jet. Now, especially with a platform, the advent of a technology that Aegis is developing and leveraging AI, machine learning, coordinating and integrating all these services, knowing where every jet in the country, if not the world, resides. It's just amazing what we're going to be able to do with the platform in the future. But what I look at is, what about the first-time buyer? Imagine this. You worked at some big accounting greats, Mark. If you could send over to a Tiffany client that you were courting, and you said, you know what, we're going to send a jet over to you from Teterboro to Dallas. You're going to meet us in our offices in New York City, and we're going to have you home by dinner, right? What a major flex an accounting firm could do that. Most of them don't even think about something like that because they don't know that a jet can actually be relatively affordable when done with a platform like Aegis that has an algorithm that can literally save a private jet owner an average of $2 million over a 5-year swath of time. I mean, that is absolutely incredible. Paul, I'm going to defer to you if you could share a little bit of what's been coming on with conversations you've been having. I don't want to speak too much related directly to LOIs or anything, but I know that you have a lot of folks in conversations and a lot of folks saying, this is amazing, we want to partner with you. Can you speak to some of that? And Glenn, I know that you have to go if you have to at any time. I'm just so grateful for the time that you were able to invest. Just give us a quick wave and let us know that you got to bow out. But thank you so much for your service to this country, what you're doing with Aegis. But anything that you can help us with here before you head off, just let me know. Hey, Izzy, before you go, I want to say this because I'd want to get to that and be able to leverage all the time that I can from Glenn Gonzalez, another aviation great. But Paul, over to you before we do that.
So I have a lot of MROs coming to me and now interested. And what I'm learning is that I'm not hearing, no, I don't want more maintenance monies. And no, I don't want more charter flight hours. By our avenues, we'll be able to get them more income by charter hours, and by scale, bring them more maintenance birds in the hangar to get worked on. But I have, I just told you, I was invited by West Star Aviation. They to play golf the other day, and I was a little nervous, kind of out of my norm, but I went there and I had the best time of my life. I mean, imagine you show up to a tee and there's a sponsor there that you're already vetted. Like, you're in the middle of the Braemar Country Club, and so you're already friends. And out of that, I got 5 letters of intent.
Wow.
West Star Aviation, ACI Jet, Thornton Aviation, and one story I just want to say, please. And Izzy, I shared this with you the other day. Was a friend of mine, Adrian Sussman. He's a agent to a lot of the IndyCar drivers who have won the Indy 500. To have your picture with the IndyCar and the driver only on the whole front straight with an empty stadium, that's pretty cool. He introduced me to this gentleman, Steve Gregory. Steve and I, we had an hour and a half conversation. He was over the moon about what I'm doing. I wait impatiently, and 10 days later, oh yeah, I told my 2, directors of maintenance, and they were kind of lukewarm to it. And I'm like, all right, well, let me speak to him, please. I want to turn him around if they hear it from the horse's mouth. So sure enough, I get with this gentleman, Bob Percy, and we stayed on the phone for a half an hour, and it ended with, Paul, I'll do whatever I can to help you. I like it. Because they work on every biz jet there is out there, and they work on the line with the airliners. They don't need to bring it into a hangar. They can work out on the line. But the upside that he saw was, even though they're a boutique shop and they have lots of business, they would like more business. My intent is to get them where they got to build another hangar. But where I'm going with this is, I said, when you get on board with our fleet, our team, you have other brothers over there that can do other skill sets. And he loved that idea, that he's not standing alone. If I had some unicorn I had to fix, let's call one of the 20 or 50 or 100 MROs that's part of the Aegis fleet, kind of thing. So
that is
we want them over.
Yes. Appreciate that perspective. Glenn, before you have to jump, any final words that you would want the investor ear that's sort of peeking into this conversation, if you will, giving them firsthand information of the landscape of what's currently happening with EJSS and the trajectory of where this company's going. Any final thoughts on your side of the desk where you'd love to share with investors before you jump off?
Sure. I've been on both sides of the desk where I've raised funds for my operation, where I've invested into and supported other organizations that were raising funds for themselves. What I think I would pass along to an investor is you've got to have all of the major pieces. You've got leadership. Paul has surrounded himself with, from the drawing table for the design of aircraft all the way through the operations and the wrench turning of those experts, from leadership with four-star generals all the way through individuals such as myself who've run, one of the largest aviation companies in private aviation. I think one of the things that I'm excited about is how EJSS works and how EJSS connects to all of the various different touch points around the industry. Not just with engines, not just with the airframe like an OEM, but with every aspect of the aircraft and the aircraft industry and the market. That is how you disrupt, and then surrounding yourself with people that can connect to each of those touch points. EJSS is primed and ready to be a disruption. There are only a couple of companies that are doing what EJSS is planning and ready to do. And I think any investor who gets involved at this early stage will be very happy with the team, be very happy with what they learn, and happy with their investment as the company grows.
Thank you so much for that. And of course, qualifying the fact that we're not making any guarantees or anything if you do decide to invest with a discussion with Paul and his team. But in any event, Glenn, thank you so much for your service to this country. I know you have to here, as you mentioned, that you could carve out a little bit of time with your busy day and you've been traveling. So thank you so much for this. Really appreciate all that you do. I'll continue here with the rest of the folks, but Glenn Gonzalez, EJSS board member. Thank you so much, Glenn. Have a great rest of your day. Gentlemen, stay on as we wrap up here. And folks, as you've been seeing, there's been a link on there where you can go ahead and click to go ahead and get on my schedule. And we can certainly provide the relevant details, preliminary information that you're looking for as you make a determination whether or not this should be a part of your portfolio. All right. Well, Paul, jumping back over to Mark, Mark, I love your background because, again, what I was alluding to earlier, imagine accounting firms being able to have a major flex like that. Hey, I'm sending a private jet to the FBO that's right in your backyard, and I'm sending a car right to your home or office. I mean, that's something that we can facilitate right through the EJSS platform. I'm excited about that. Certainly ask about those details with Paul if you're getting some preliminary details and information on this. But what I wanted to jump to with Mark particularly is in the accounting field. As you know, there's this phrase bonus depreciation, and there's several things that come to mind with that. But in aviation specifically, what was exciting is several years back, there was up to 100% tax write-off on buying a business jet. Now, there's certain parameters around that without getting into the granular details, but imagine someone buys a used jet for $5 million, just a light business jet. And they get to write that off, right? That has been sunsetting down. I think right now it's up to 40%. The rule has passed the House, but it is also, I'm expecting with the change of administration, the way it looks currently, that it's probably going to get written into law again. Now, if you were sitting shoulder to shoulder with one of your clients, wouldn't you be saying, hey, if I were you, I would not only hold off because probably in the next 3 months, maybe 6 months, this is going to be written into law again, and you'll get 100% tax write-off when you buy that bird, right? And if you partner with a company like an EJSS that can save you $2 million every 5 years on services, the chartering aspect, parts, everything that comes into it, what does that give to a client on an edge if an accountant could forecast things like that? Can you give some perspective so investors can hear how important a platform is like EJSS to be able to facilitate and coordinate something like that?
I think the one key that you identify is the platform, and being able to use the platform to both, say, the investors' benefit as well as to EJSS's benefit. And that has been somewhat validated from my perspective with the number of letter of intents that are out there and the number of organizations that Paul has had contact with, that, it's, let's just say this started maybe as his idea. And like anything, it's like, okay, you want people to invest in it. But with that, it's now been validated by people kind of outside that little sphere, the original sphere.
Right.
So that to me is a bonus on a going forward basis. So when I got involved early on back in the September, October timeframe, like I'm saying, it was kind of a small nucleus, which has been continuing to grow over the course of the last few months. When you talk about the tax benefits, I would agree with you that with the change in administration and seems like the tax favorability, I would certainly suggest that somebody wait at this point in time versus kind of taking what's on the table.
I mean, certainly if that's coming down the pike, it's like,
right,
drop $5 million now and only get, whatever the write-off would be for them in their tax circumstances versus $5 million at one time. That's just absolutely remarkable. And Paul, let's jump over to you. Thank you so much for that, Mark. When I just share my screen here with the incredible team that you've been able to pull together, as well as this advisory board that you're garnering, which hasn't even been updated because you've got another couple on there. But let's talk about General Mark Welsh, right? 4-star general, head of Texas A&M University, John Golia, Jimmy Graham. I mean, what is it about what EJSS is doing and what Paul has done in the past and these conversations that you're having that has everybody abuzz saying, I got to really get to be a part of this company and this mission. This is absolutely remarkable. As we wrap up our final thoughts here, can you give some color to that so investors can really catch what's happening here? Because certainly I've got to imagine, you've got someone like Mark on your side that's brilliant with accounting, and he's only going to tell you, Paul, you've gotten this traction. Stop selling the company down here. You're no longer as risky as you were. It's got to move over here, right? So before that happens, I mean, there's a window that's, closing. So can you just speak to what it is that is exciting people so much so investors really can grab that and make a determination whether or not to move now or pay more for it later?
I'll try my best here, Izzy. When you talk about business jets, I'm sorry, it's sexy. It has some pull to it, and then add the whole monetary thing. I mean, if you're going to invest, $500 million, what are you going to invest in? And all the indications are the MRO industry. It's a $50 billion into the future, if not more. Speaking what Glenn was talking about, how we have far-reaching connections. We always know that by scale, we'll be dealing with rental car companies and hotels and others. There's a company out there that's already, as I told you, is already doing this, and they're doing a fine job regarding the passenger side of aspect, the charter side. But so we have this, feedback loop where we have maintenance on one side and we have charter on the other. And the CEO said, after I talked to him at the golf tournament, he said, I want to speak with you sooner than later. That was his words on the text. I want to speak with you sooner than later if we can kind of marry to some degree. Of course, I want EJSS to come out ahead. So that's that. But also along the lines of, you're talking about flexing and sending a car. I got with Kay Gitteben, and he is the CEO founder of Go Rentals, known around the world for, you show up in a jet, what do you want? A Rolls Royce, a Ferrari, or what? And he's over the moon to want to try and work something out with us.
Mark, over to you. Your final thoughts on anything that you think would be an appropriate thought for an investor to sort of chew on, if you will, because I've got my thoughts and I'll wrap things up here.
I think one of the things from an investor perspective is looking at the team that Paul has pulled together, particularly when you look at the advisory group. And that clearly what it is, it's an advisory group that, collectively have miles and miles of aviation experience. So when you look at that group and you get back to, as an investor, is this something I want to invest in? I think it's been validated by this advisory group, particularly based on their knowledge of the industry. If you kind of allude back to what Glenn was saying, that this is being looked at as a potential disruptor, and there needs to be a disruptor within the aviation industry. So, a lot of things are kind of coming together as we move forward.
That's really exciting. Thank you for that, Mark. And I couldn't agree more. And I'll give you my final thoughts here as we wrap up. And again, you've been seeing a link that's coming up. Go ahead and click on that. If you want to get some more preliminary details, we can definitely get that to you. Scheduling a call, just click on that link there and we can coordinate that. But let me tell you what I think, Paul. I mean, I look at some incredible industry powerhouses, and it's almost like you're following the same trail that was blazed. I love how you've coined the phrase with the acronym ONCE. Own nothing, control everything. Isn't that what VRBO did? Airbnb, Lyft, Uber, right? They didn't go out and buy a fleet of cars. They didn't go out and invest in a ton of real estate. All they did was coordinate, integrate all these things. By the way, that was sans AI or machine learning in the past. Those were just simple processes. Now, your platform's going to have the ability to say, hey, there's weather happening over here. Let's notify a commercial airliner that if they're delayed, we can have a private jet for their elite status people over there waiting immediately, so they don't have to worry about, things like that, knowing about 1 through 5 inspections and when that should happen so that they stay in network and someone doesn't get surprised when they say, hey, we just realized we should really change the tires before we take off because you don't want to land and get a right? So do it within our network so you're not paying through the nose. From soup to nuts, you figured that all out. And again, of course, I am not by any means likening that right now we expect you to be this unicorn company. But what I will say is, we're qualifying that statement, make your own determination, but why not? Prove to me that this particular industry, what Paul just planted his flag in and said, I am going to build this thing, and the tremendous team that you have, why not? What's against this? People want this. I'm excited about that because I think it does have the potential and all the hallmarks to be one of those industry greats like an Airbnb, a VRBO, an Uber, and a Lyft. And I'll tell you right now, if you're listening and you missed one of those opportunities, maybe this is it again. Obviously, I'm not making any guarantees with anything. I'm just telling you, you should probably take a close look and have a good conversation of maybe starting with something and to make a determination in the future how you want to do that. And you can have a discussion with Paul about that. I'm just remarkably excited and proud to be a part of this project. Paul, your final thoughts as you wrap things up here, and we'll sunset this. But again, click the link to get on our schedules, to provide any more preliminary details that you would want to see, hear from the founder and CEO, potentially, if we can get on Paul's busy schedule. But whatever that looks like for you, make sure you get the information so you're not saying, I heard of Aegis before they were even a publicly traded company or whatever this ends up being, or bought out by somebody, just becoming a household name in aviation. But Paul, over to you as we wrap things up.
So I couldn't do it without you, Izzy. Thank you for being in our corner. You really been a cornerstone. I think the future is so bright. It's been hitting me in the last few weeks of everyone basically saying, yes, I got to join. I don't know what tomorrow and next month brings, but it only looks golden. Thank you.
Absolutely remarkable. My hat's off to you, Paul. Paul T. Glessner, the founder and CEO of Aegis Executive Jet Support Services. Mark, thank you so much. Mark Glessner, you're amazing in accounting, and I thank you so much for you just looking at financial summaries and things like that and making sure things look above board. Really appreciate that. Investors certainly will as well. Thank you, everybody, so much for joining and watching this. Again, click the link if you got any questions on that. Happy to provide you the details that you need to make a determination if Aegis should be a part of your portfolio. All right, bye-bye for now, everybody, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care and have a great day.